So on this show, we talk about short-term rentals, how to invest in them, how to run them most efficiently and remotely, and all kinds of tips and tricks about our short-term rentals. But sometimes we're going the other way. Sometimes we want to delete our listing, or there might be some reasons why we want to delete it temporarily, and that's what we're going to talk about this week.
Welcome to Short-Term Rental Riches. We'll discuss investing in real estate, but with a specific focus on short-term rentals. Quick, actionable items to acquire, manage, and scale your portfolio. I'm your host, Tim Hubbard.
Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in again. There are some real reasons why you might want to delete your listing on Airbnb or whatever OTA, online travel agency you're using. An obvious one is if you sell your property, right? If you sell your property, well, then you're not going to need the list anymore unless the person that's buying your property wants to keep operating it as a short-term rental. That's happened with me before, and so you could just simply share your account with them as a co-host, or you could work that out with the buyer directly. But there are other reasons why you might want to delete a listing. Sometimes we don't actually have to delete it, though. So, for example, maybe you want to do a big renovation where you're going to be changing the floor or changing the kitchen or just doing some big updates that are going to take a little while. Well, you might think about deleting it, but in fact, that's probably not the best option. You would want to snooze it or unlist it. So we'll talk about those alternatives. But first, just a couple notes on deleting a listing. And this is more specific to Airbnb. You cannot delete a listing that has active reservations. So you can't, if someone's checking in your rental next week, you can't delete your listing today. But you can block your calendar or snooze it after that reservation ends, and then that would give you the ability to delete it afterwards. When you do delete a listing, it removes everything permanently, and they make sure that they notify you about that. Except there's one thing that it doesn't remove, and that's your financial data. So if you're going back and you need to pull numbers on a property, maybe that you sold and you deleted the listing, you're still going to find that under your Airbnb account when you go into your on the tax side and the income where you can see all the historic data. So you will have that, but everything else is going to be gone. Removing a listing is also not going, or deactivating your listing is not going to remove all your reviews. So you can deactivate a listing and it's still going to stay on there. That's one of the alternatives to actually deleting your listing. So we'll get to a couple other ones, but how do you actually delete your listing? Well, it's pretty simple, although Airbnb tries to get you not to do it. They ask you quite a few questions. Basically, you go to your homepage, you're going to open up your listing, you're going to go to listing details and then listing status, and under listing status, that's where you're going to click edit. A drop-down menu is going to appear. They will allow you to pause your listing or hide it. That's going to make sure that it doesn't show up in search results. So that's an alternative to deleting it. You can snooze it. That's kind of like the same thing, so no one can see it in your search results. You can unlist it. Or the final option is just to full-on delete it. And they're going to ask you why. And they've got some of the more common instances in there. I'm doing a renovation. I'm doing this. I sold the property. And then they're going to ask you another question or two after that before you actually hit the button that says delete my listing. So it's pretty easy to do. They're going to ask you quite a few questions, try to get you to not do it, but you can do it in a few minutes. Those two alternatives that are very good, and you'll want to unlist or snooze your property if you plan on re-renting it again in the future. So the only situation really where you're going to want to delete your listing is if you just don't have the property anymore and you're not going to need the listing. But if you plan on making some change, just make sure you list it or unlist it or snooze it so that it's not showing up in the search results. You may also, there's been some times where I've considered selling properties, and so it's hard to show a property to a potential buyer if you have guests staying in there, especially if your guest is only staying for a couple days. You don't want to have a random person coming in and reviewing things and doing that. So that's one of the tough pieces, I guess, about selling a property is you really have to block that schedule so that it's just sitting there vacant. So you have time to show potential buyers. Now, in today's market, we know a good property is flying off the shelf. So you probably don't have to block it for that long, but that is a real consideration if you're planning on selling a property. And so in that case, you either block the calendar or snooze the property. Now, there's also some scenarios where Airbnb can deactivate your listing for you, where they're going to do it without asking you. And we don't want that, right? But that's usually when we're dropping the ball somewhere. We've haven't provided them the information that they need. So if you have 4 consecutive reservation requests that expire, they're going to temporarily deactivate your listing. Now, they're going to notify you, and when you log into your dashboard online, you're going to see that it's temporarily unlisted, and they'll give you the reason why. So usually when they unlist a property, it's probably going to be for about 5 days. And of course, you can try your best, call Airbnb, get them whatever they need to try to improve. They can also unlist a property if your review score drops below a certain amount. So again, we know how important reviews are and we want to keep them up, but for whatever reason it drops below, they can unlist your property for you. Another reason, if you consistently take more than 7 days to pre-approve an inquiry, they can unlist or deactivate your property. So quick actionable episode for you this week. Hopefully you're not having to delete too many listings unless you just sold some properties and made a killing. Hopefully that is happening if you are selling properties. But I'm in this for the long haul, so when I sell property, I like to reinvest it into another one. But if you need to delete your listing, not that hard. Just go to your profile, go to the listing status, delete it, or consider unlisting it or snoozing it. And yeah, pretty simple little topic this week, but something that might come up. So thanks again for tuning in to the Short-Term Rental Riches podcast. If you guys have ideas or topics or anything that you want us to talk about, you can head to our website, strriches.com. Let us know. We love getting feedback. It's great getting all the feedback, and I know there's a lot of questions out there, so let us know. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.
If you're looking for a ton of free resources, well, you can check out the links in the show notes or head to our website, restmethods.com, where you'll find free guides, house rules, and my ebook on finding the best short-term rental properties. Thanks for tuning in.